Okay. What's up, YouTube? HPJ here, and I'm coming at you guys with an update to my discussion video for the Fortune Ladies. I do apologize because I did not have the other necessary Fortune Ladies in the deck. Fortune Lady support cards that had just recently got announced here because they were not in the previous update. I had to wait to get all that situated. But it is together now, and we can actually move into talking about these cards. So the Fortune Lady archetype is a very old 5Ds era archetype. It was used by its signature duelist, Carly Carmine. She was a bit of a side character. She had a lot of relevance in the plot during the first season of the 5Ds era, of 5Ds anime, where they were dealing with the Dark Signers. Of course, everyone knows them for the Earthbound Immortals. Each of them had specific decks that were ran with specific archetypes, and then they had an Earthbound Immortal to follow around them. Carly Carmine, Earthbound Immortal, was a Piscu, the Hummingbird, and her deck to follow was the Fortune Ladies and the Fortune Fairies. So she started off with the Fortune Fairies, but she ended up losing a duel to Sayer after trying to expose him and the Arcadia movement for the things that they were doing to a lot of the people. For example, Misty, she was one. Well, that's her Japanese name. I mean, her English name. I don't know her Japanese name, but Misty, she was the one who has Coco Araya, the lizard, and she was trying to uncover the Arcadia movement because they had stole her brother, and that's when she fell into being a dark signer, and they gave her immortal and her powers. So in the Carly Carmine, when she lost the duel, she ended up dying, and they resurrected her and gave her a Piscu, the hummingbird. And she was trying, either she did have her duel with Jack, and that was the person she came after. Um, and yeah, it's a lot from the anime. I can honestly tell you that. But she was still in the anime for a while. I don't believe she dueled, as far as I remember the anime itself. But Carly's deck did stick around for a long time. It just didn't get a lot of support till now. And from what I just seen at the time of this recording, a lot of other decks that came, a lot of archetypes that came up during the 5Ds era are getting a ton of new support. So I'm gonna be talking about a lot of them and making deck profiles for a lot of the new support wherever I can fit it in. So with the Fortune Ladies, let's talk about them. So there's various versions of the Fortune monsters. There's Fortune Ladies that she ran, and then there's the Fortune Fairies that she ran. The Fortune Fairies are just chibi versions of the Fortune Ladies. We only have one out right now, and that's Fortune Lady Hikari, and she is amazing. I think she'll probably call Fortune Fairy Light when she comes to the TCG. We're not sure, so don't quote me on that. But we love her effect. So when I'll give you guys some insight on her effect momentarily, but I do want to at least talk about a lot of the older cards first, because a lot of the older cards are what people are probably going to be questioning. What do I use? How do I use it? And stuff like that. So, the Fortune Ladies all have no attack and no defense. They're question mark attack and defense. They gain this attack and defense for a certain amount times their level. For instance, Fortune Lady Light, as I'm highlighting right now, she gains 200 attack and defense times her level. In every standby phase, this is something all the Fortune Ladies have. They gain one level, their max level is 12, during each of your standby phases. So, let's say for instance you get Fortune Lady Light on the field. She survives for the turn. She comes to the turn. Comes to your next turn. It's standby phase. She'll increase her level by 1, which means her attack and defense will increase by 200, meaning she'll be a level 2 sarcastic type monster with 400 attack and 400 defense. Another monster sharing her same plight is Fortune Lady Fire, who is a level 2, and she gains 200 attack and defense times her level. Fortune Lady Wind and Fortune Lady Water gain 300 attack and defense for their level. Times their level. And then Fortune Lady Dark and Fortune Lady Earth gain 400 times their level. Each Fortune Lady, of course, just like other unique monsters and archetypes, have different abilities and different effects. The most known are, of course, Fortune Lady Water, Fortune Lady Light, and Fortune Lady Dark being the two that special summon. Fortunately, Light special summons a monster from the deck when she's removed from the field by a card effect. Fortunately, Dark special summons a monster from the graveyard when a Fortune Lady monster destroys a monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard. Fortune Lady Fire destroys one face-up monster your opponent controls when she special summoned through the effects of a Fortune Lady card in face-up attack position. Then she inflicts damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack points. That other monster that was destroyed by her effect. Then you have Fortune Lady Win. She's not too big. She's not too much of the biggest used monster in the archetype because her effect relies on her being normal summon. Fortune Lady Win, when she is normal summon, she destroys spells and traps your opponent controls equal to the number of face-up Fortune Lady monsters you control. One of the biggest Fortune Lady used next to Light and Water is, Light and Fire is Fortune Lady Water. Whenever she special summons while you control another Fortune Lady monster, except for a Fortune Lady Water, she will draw 2 cards from your deck. Then we have Fortune Lady Earth, the biggest beater in the deck. Every time she increases her level, she will inflict 400 points of damage to your opponent. That can be used very strategically if you know how to play with the Fortune Lady deck. And you can have, and there's a lot of advantages to this. Now let's move on to a couple of monsters that we have not talked about, but we'll talk about now because they are quote direct usage, but they're not quote too much of direct usage with this type of deck. So the first monster I'm going to talk about is Casabalas in Witch of Fate. This is a level 4 Earth attribute spellcaster type monster, 1800 attack, 0 defense. Her effect reads: when your opponent special summons a monster or monsters in quotations, you can banish one monster from your graveyard with question mark attack and then to destroy that special summon monster or monsters. So what she pretty much is she's trying to act like she's a destruction card by removing monsters from your graveyard with question mark attack. Since unfortunately these attack and defense are not readable, because there are question marks, you can use Casabalas in the Witch of Fate. People did try to use Casabalas in the Witch of Fate, which wasn't too bad of a monster. It was a beater at least, but it just wasn't as useful as people would like her to be. Then you have Solitaire Magician, the monster next to her. Level 4 light attribute, 1600 attack, 1300 defense. Her effect reads that once a turn, you can select a face-up Fortune Lady monster you control and a face-up monster on the field. And you reduce the level of the Fortune Lady by 3 and destroy the other selected monster. Which wasn't too bad for the Fortune Ladies, because you can do this on a water, you can do this on a dark. It was hard to do this on wind or light or fire because they have low, but you can do this on practically anyone that's fire, water. You can do this on water, dark, and earth. However, it kind of was a select thing, so most cards can dodge it, or most cards are unaffected by it because they can't be targeted by effects or destroyed by effects. So that's a little bit of why Solitaire Magician just unfortunately wasn't too useful to them. I mean, she'd be great if she had Fortunately in her name, because then she can react with a lot of other Fortunately cards, but she just unfortunately didn't. And then we have Carly Carmine's Earthbound Immortal while she was under the Signers. This is Earthbound Immortal of Philippiscu. Earthbound Immortal Philippiscu is a level 10 dark attribute winged beast monster. 2500 attack, 2500 defense. There can only be one face of Earthbound Immortal on the field. If there's no field spell, destroy this card. Your opponent cannot select this card as an attack target, but this card can attack your opponent directly. This card is removed from the field except by its own effect. Destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls. Then inflict damage to your opponent equal to 800 points of damage to your opponent for each monster that was destroyed by this card's effect. So the big thing about this was you found ways to banish this card or remove this card from the field. Then you would inflict damage to your opponent by destroying all their face-up monsters and reacting as such. I don't really particularly know, because this thing can be special summoned. It doesn't have a restriction of it being special summoned. It has a restriction of if there's no field spell, it destroys itself, which... that's kind of the thing about the Earthbound Immortals. They all needed field spells. They're like the precursor to the Malefics. When the Malefics need a field spell in order to thrive on the field, they did have monsters to keep them on the board without having to use a field spell, because I think they have Earthbound, Earthbound Line Wire, and I think the Malefics have a couple of cards now that helps them. But that is pretty much the Earthbound Immortal that came with the Fortune Ladies. Now let's talk about the Fortune Lady spells and traps that assist them. So first off is Future Visions. This does not particularly pertain to Fortune Ladies directly, but it does help with Fortune Lady Light's effect, in which moving her by a card effect and such summon another Fortune Lady. So when a monster is normal summoned, banish it. Banish that monster. During the next standby phase of the controller who summoned that monster, it returns to the field in face-up attack position. So you can easily just set a monster and then have it dodge being hit with Future Visions. Or you run monsters like the D Scout plane, the DDD Survivor, because I remember people who were playing the removal decks, the Vanish decks from way long ago, and the monsters the different dimension monsters. Those were two of the biggest different dimension monsters because they were the ones that could get over a lot of stuff. But you use this Fortune Lady Light, and the way it interacted with her was you summoned her while you had the Future Visions, you banished her, and then you got Fortune Lady Dark, Fortune Lady Earth to sit on the field as high defensive Fortune Lady monsters, and then she'll come back during the next standby phase. Or if you want to speed that up, there's Fortune's Future. Normal spell card, you send a remove from play Fortune Lady monster to the graveyard, or at this turn, the turn is banished, to the graveyard, draw 2 cards. So you had your draw engine through your spell by banishing the particular Fortune Ladies, or if you're using a Chaos Form style of deck, you send your light and your dark back to the graveyard, and then you set up there accordingly. Then we have Time Passage. This is a quick play spell card for the Fortune Ladies. Select one Fortune Lady monster on the field, increase its level by 3, and its last to the end phase. So this was kind of like a way to bump up the Fortune Lady monster in case they were going to have to deal with, like, you can play this during the damage step, or before damage step, and then they would increase their level, so that way they increase their attack and defense. And then that way you could benefit from them not dying, or you could do something with Fortune Lady Earth and have her inflict damage to your opponent. That way you could do some heavy damage in terms of burn, but you can also retain a lot more of your other stuff through her effect. Then you have this trap cards. You have Inherit Fortune. When a Fortune Lady monster is destroyed, you can, during your next standby phase, summon 2 Fortune Lady monsters from your hand. Then you have Binding Destiny. If all the monsters you control are Fortune Lady, you can negate a spell, trap, or the normal summon of a monster and remove that card from play. And if you do, it returns to your opponent's hand during the end phase of the turn that this card was activated. Is a bit of a good but situational type of card. So is Inherent Fortune, because they do solely rely on the monsters themselves. And then the sad part about Bending Destiny is that at the time this card was coming out, we already had Dark Bribe. We had cards still running around like Magic Jammer and 7 Tools of the Bandits. So this card really was an type of card, but it didn't really help solve the problem because the card went back to the owner's hand. I mean, it did get banished, yeah, but it went back to the hand, and it didn't stop special summons. The last card to talk about, of course, is the Slip of Fortune. The Slip of Fortune is pretty much remove the monster that your opponent is targeting, negate the attack, and then the monster will come back during the next standby phase. So you would get back your monster, and then you would pretty much help. It's pretty much like a Sakuretsu armor, except it's going to banish the monster that was being targeted and then negate the attack, which is perfectly fine for most of the Fortune Ladies, because you can use this with Fortune Lady. It doesn't normal summon, it doesn't summon them, it just puts them back. So it does help with Fortune Lady Light and triggering her effect. It helps the Fortune Ladies get out of dodge for a lot of the bigger effects. And then, of course, it's coming back during the standby phase, so bam. You have another monster on the field, tribute summon to summon your Earthbound Immortal or summon some of your other big monsters. So that's pretty much all the older Fortune Lady cards or Fortune Lady support cards. And now let's talk about the new ones. If you haven't seen my video already for it, but this is Fortune Lady Hakari. She's level 1 light spellcaster type monster, 0 attack, 0 defense. When you draw this card, reveal it and special summon it from your hand. When this card is special summoned from your hand, you can target one level 1 monster. You can target one monster you control, send it to the graveyard, and it special summon one level 1 light spellcaster type monster from your deck. And you can only use each effect of Fortune Fairy Hakari once per turn. So that's not too bad of an effect. She has a ton of utility with Fortune Lady Light. She has a versatility with Fortune Lady Light. And because of a lot of support cards here and there, you can use it to trigger Fortune Lady Light's effects. So far, everyone's video I've seen with Fortune Lady Light and Fortune Fairy Hakari, nothing misses timing, and I just set everything back up. That sucks. But yeah, nothing misses its timing, nothing misses its arrangement, so you're pretty much good when it comes to her effect and her triggering Fortune Lady Light. Now let's talk about the continuous spell, Fortune's Vision. So this is pretty much a tanky for them. When it's activated, you add one Fortune Lady card from your deck to your hand. Once a turn, if a card you control is banished by a card effect, you can activate this card's effect, and you take your monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects for the turn. Then the other effect is if you remove one of your opponent's monsters is banished by a card effect during this turn, the next attack that you would take, you take no damage from it. And you can only activate one Fortune's Vision per turn. So it's pretty much a get out of dodge card and a tanky all in one. And that works great when you combine it with cards like Future Visions. You can combine it with Slip of Fortune. You can even combine it with some indirect cards like what was it? Oh, Interdimensional Matter Transporter. Its ability to remove a monster from play, and then you can trigger its effect. You can use a lot of cards in combination with this. Different Dimension Gate, and a lot of various other spells and traps to remove cards as well to help you out. Just on top of my head, that was the only ones I can really think of. But the Fortunately archetype has a lot of benefits from a lot of things that you can use and a lot of things that you can easily get into. One thing that I loved getting into was Chaos. So using cards like Blacklisted Soldier, Chaos Emperor Dragon, and of course Chaos Sorcerer. Because these are all monsters that need light and dark. This really works with Fortunately Light and Fortunately Dark. If they're in the graveyard, you can banish them, and then you can trigger cards like Fortune's Future to send them back to the graveyard to, get them going. And then you have some indirect beaters. You have some direct setup from a Chaos Engine. If you want to use your Spellcaster Engine, of course, Demock is still an option that you can use with cards like Magical Dimension and Special Summon him and get a spell card back from your graveyard during the end phase. I don't know too much about these lovely ladies, but the Witchcraft does have a lot of synergy when it comes to spellcaster type monsters. So if you're looking for some indirect beat sticks, go right to the Witchcraft. If that is something you're looking into, I know a lot of the Witchcraft stuff is currently available thanks to the side set that just came out. I don't know too much about them. I'm still learning so that I can do the deck profile for them. So they are direct spellcaster support for any spellcaster type deck. So if you want some advantage for the Fortune ladies, there you go, right there. With someone like Golem Aries, she can help support your Fortune ladies when they're targeted by a spell or trap or a monster effect. And she can help you with that. I don't really know her effect too well, but I did at least want her to be recognized as some type of support, because there are some of the cards from Witchcraft that support spellcasters. Speaking of spellcasters, why don't we bring up spellbooks? Because spellbooks are another spellcaster type archetype that have some directs that doesn't have too much, has support for spellcaster type monsters. That helps not only for their own archetype, but indirectly helps with other archetypes. So with Spellbook Magician of Prophecy, he can help you go get Spellbook of Knowledge, Spellbook of Power, and take advantage of those. Even Spellbook of Wisdom if you're looking into some defensive cards as well. Then we have Magical Dimension and Secret Village of the Spellcasters, because I know a lot of people want to talk about those old school spell cards. With Secret Village, it helps lock your opponents out of using their spell cards, and you can combine it with the right assortment of cards there with the Fortune Ladies. Just remember that Ultra Geist is still a thing, so you do have to deal with them, and of course, witchcraft, because they're spellcaster type monsters too. I'm trying to think of some other things. Dark Magician Girl are still some fan favorites. Little decks like that, or decks that can use spellcasters in their setup to get over Secret Village of the spellcasters. Magical Dimension is a thing that a lot of older players were using with the Fortune Ladies as its direct support for the spellcaster typing. The only problem with this card is it does mess up with Fortune Lady Light, and it does make her miss her timing. Also, do not use this with Fortune Lady Water unless you do control another spellcaster type monster, another Fortune Lady monster. Because if you blow up the other monster, she will not trigger her effect to draw 2 cards. So be very careful about this if you're using Magical Dimension. And then I wanted to talk about a level 1 engine, because I remember talking about this a little bit. But Kinkabayu can help with Fortune Lady Light. You can special summon her off of Kinkabayu's effect when it's normal summon. And then Kinkabayu, or Kinkabio, I don't exactly know how most people pronounce it, but I pronounce it Kinkabayo. Kinkabayo can help special summon a level 1 monster from your graveyard. So you can go get Fortune Lady Light. When Light leaves the field, she'll special summon a Fortune Lady. So you can easily just go into end phase with Kinka. Kinka can send itself back to the hand, remove the monster that was special summoned through its effect, and then she'll trigger. You can also use Mystic Piper in combinations with Fortune Lady Hakari, and Fortune Lady with Fortune Lady Hakari, because you can tribute himself off of her effect to draw a card, reveal it. If it's a level 1 monster, you'll draw again, and if you draw into her, you can special summon her from the hand if you haven't used her effect that turn. So it is a quick way of getting into her, or Fortune Lady Light if that's the case as well. It's because it speeds up the process and stuff, if that's an option there. So my thing about the Fortune Ladies and the Fortune Fairies, I can't wait to see what the other ones. I can't wait to see the Water, Wind, Fire, Dark, and Earth, because they all range into it, and they were initially in the game were normal monsters, and they did have a Speller Trap or 2 to support them. So we're really waiting to see if we will get those. I would love to see a boss monster, because they did reveal a adult version or adult looking setup of Solitaire Magician, so I can't wait to see what she does. And then there was another, fortunately, in a dark cloak with a red outline, and I can't wait to see what she is and what she does. I think a lot of people will probably just say we would, and I do agree, we do need a boss. I would love to see a boss monster for Fortune Ladies. I like to see some more direct support in terms of removal, because I want to see if we can get a lot more cards to really work with Fortune's vision and getting those off. Maybe a Monster Reborn, maybe a better destruction effect, maybe a better removal effect of spells and traps like Wind, or maybe a way to help Wind out a little more when it comes to her effect. Because I know Wind and Earth seem like the 2 weakest of attributes when it comes to this game, but they have a lot of great support. It's just sometimes you get them into an archetype and then they kind of just go. And I know a lot of people don't want that out of the Fortune Ladies, because Wind and Earth are really badass looking monsters. It's just that they kind of suck in terms of their own effects. So hopefully we'll get some bonuses to them from the newer monsters, and maybe they can help them out a little more. You always have your indirect support, of course, from your Chaos engines, your Spellcaster engines, and your level 1 engines in terms of those types of effects. I've seen a lot of variations of Fortune Lady decks over time. They use a lot of cards here and there to really help them out. I remember playing a deck that used just Fortunately Fire and Fortunately Water's effects to manipulate hand advantage, manipulate destruction effects. And I think it did use Fortunately Light and Dark. I'm not too sure, but it was just a weird combination of decks. But I do like the fact that this is an archetype that can combine various attributes, various styles, various setups, and can get a lot of things going. So, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and it's going to be a very lengthy one. It's going to be a very lengthy upload too. But I hope you guys do enjoy it. If you guys have anything you want to contribute to Fortune Ladies, please do such in the comment section below. I don't know what exactly is going on with my comment section. There are some comments that get left, but then they get removed. So either it's YouTube, It ain't me. I just want to state that it's not me because I didn't remove them. So do at least keep it at a minimal point to where YouTube isn't removing your comments. But thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. HCJ signing out. Take care.